today we're going to be presenting an overview of the crisis in the Muslim mind. We're going to identify the root cause of the Muslims' world decline, which is deep crisis in their own thought. So, what is the crisis? According to the book Crisis in the Muslim Mind by AbdulHamid AbuSulayman, he defined the crisis as an intellectual and methodological breakdown that has left the Ummah disoriented and unable to solve its own problem. The failure lies in the way Muslims think, reason, and apply Islam in the modern world. The result? A society trapped between rigid traditionalism and blind Western imitation. According to history, this decline began after the early Islamic period, when the tribal faction still holding on to pre-Islamic value gained power. This led to the collapse of the Caliphate and the rise of dynasty that ruled through tribalism and authoritarianism and doesn't include Islamic principle in this ism. The next one is when the rift between the political world and the religious scholars became separated. The scholar withdrew from the government fearing political corruption. Over time, the closure of ijtihad, meaning the independent legal reasoning, was abandoned completely. This paralyzed intellectual growth, leaving scholars to repeat the past instead of addressing new challenges. Later on, Muslim societies turned to the West for an answer. They start to adopt secularism, capitalism, and socialism model. This approach ignored Islamic value and deepened the Ummah disconnection from its Muslim identity.
The first crisis in the Muslim mind is the decline of ijtihad and rise of taqlid. So what is ijtihad and taqlid? Ijtihad is derived from the word juhud, which means employment of effort in performing a certain activities, while taqlid is try to imitate other followings or blind beliefs. This result in decline of creativity and intellectual progress in the Muslim world. Nowadays we can see that the Muslim mind gradually surrendered its capacity for creative intellectual effort and turned instead to taqlid, which closing the door of ijtihad. The Al-Atas said that the loss of independent thinking led to wider confusion and stagnation, which is the loss of nature as a divine entity. So we can see that many Muslims today try to imitate Western ways without critical thought. As Al-Atas mentioned, much of Muslim thought nowadays is form of taqlid to the West, which they said this is for the sake of modernization and progress for the world. Next is the sectarianism and disunity in the Ummah. Today, the disunity of the Muslim Ummah can largely be traced to the fragmentation caused by colonial powers that we can see throughout the history, especially in the Middle East. Sheikh Muhammad Naqib Al-Atas explained, the unity of the Muslim world was broken out through the imposition of alien concept of nationalism and secularism. For example, we can see like the fall of Ottoman Empire and the rest of the government Republic of Turkey. Furthermore, this betrayal of Islamic unify is seen in the creation of nation states among Muslims, which led to the disunity, rivalry, and conflict. For example, the effect of the fragmentation are clearly seen in the modern sectarian conflicts such as the Sunni-Shia tensions in Iraq, the civil war in Yemen, and the sectarian politic division in Lebanon. As Al-Maghdadi pointed, the emergence of secular and religion camps represent the division of the Islamic mind, making it even harder for Muslims to form unification.
Moving forward for the next crisis, political authoritarianism and leadership crisis evolves starting after the demise of Khalifah Ali, which ended the rule of righteous caliphs, Khulafa ar-Rashidun. Leadership system being transitioned or being changed from full shura system into a monarchy and autocratic system, especially during the Umayyah, Abbasid and also the Osmaniyah era, following the decline of Islamic golden governance and the great world of Islam. It resulted in the collapse of caliphate ideals system, governance system, into somehow a dynastic rule. So this dynastic rule have intertwined with the cultural norms that people would be fully obedient to the leaders that being lead them over accountability. So the people being ruled under the Sultan, under the Caliph, being silenced to speak about the corruption and abuse of power that being done by the Khalifa itself. Also, the ministers being elected by the Khalifa would fear to voice out their concerns because they might fear they will be struck out from the ministers and the cabinets. Absence of check and balance system, which didn't have any opposition like in our democracy world like now, as mandated before by the Khilafah and Islamic governance principles. Before this, during the rule of Khulafa al-Rashidun, there is shura system, but after that there are no shura system. Mainly the power is being centered to the Khalifa itself. So AbuSulayman mentioned, without nurturing of just, moral and dynamic leadership, no true revival is possible. This crisis being further elaborated by Al-Aqtas that mentioning the confusion and error in knowledge among the leaders resulted in much numbers of unqualified leaders in Islamic world. And when there are confusion and error in this knowledge, the leaders would have zero knowledge, would have no longer embodied the hikmah or justice, and they will lose adab. Not adab with basic people and so on, but adab in managing the country. So Al-Alwani in his writing suggested that there is a need of revival of ijtihad, because ijtihad is the main political power to keep the leaders in track and reformation of Islamic thought through Islamization of knowledge and moral reconstruction. Like in our university, IIUM itself, the mission is to integrate and to Islamization of knowledge in our values and virtues.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Mohammad Imaduddin bin Mohammad Sukor, and my matric number is 2224533. And I will talk about media, Islamophobia, and also global perception. So what is media? Media is used to inform, educate, entertain, and persuade people. So media can actually change someone's behavior and attitude towards some issues. For example here, after the September 11 attacks, the Western media associate Islam with certain words like fundamentalism, extremism, and also radicalism, which means it portrays bad views from the West to Muslims. So what it leads to? This media misinterpretation of media, there will be Islamophobia. And what will happen is people in the West will look at Muslim as a threat, and they will be scared of them like that. So for example here is on 27 January 2017, Donald Trump signed an executive order to block the entrance of 6 Muslim countries, actually 6 Muslim countries from entering the United States, which is spreading the fear towards Muslim, which makes the West all be scared of Muslim, because they see them as terrorists or a threat to the securities. So what can we see here is that the global perception will be bad to Muslim. They will see Muslim as violent and being a disadvantage to their life. Because of that, we need to take some initiative in order to solve this problem. So my first suggestion is to hire more Muslim journalists in order to bring balance to the news. And secondly, we need to teach people by spreading awareness through social media. And thirdly, we need to support Islamic influencers who is teaching people about Islam, so they will have their own perception, not only the bad ones, but they can see the true life of Muslim, which is the good ones. That's all from me, and thank you very much.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So the last point for this presentation is role of education and curriculum reform. So today many Muslims face confusion and loss of certainty, not because of lack of faith, but due to a crisis of knowledge. So the neglect and misapplication of Islamic principles have left many minds distracted, detached and misled by foreign ideologies such as materialism and secularism. So these influences have caused an identity crisis and weakened intellectual independence among Muslims. So the solution lies in reforming our education system to restore the true concept of knowledge, one rooted in adab and divine guidance. So furthermore, modern education often overlooks the importance of moral and spiritual development. So this has led to the erosion of ethical integrity and deformation of the Muslim personality. So Islamic teaching were never meant to be separated from good character. So by integrating akhlaq and adab into curriculum, even those with limited knowledge can uphold strong moral values amidst today's challenges. So, as for the conclusion, the crisis in the Muslim mind is caused by a loss of true understanding of Islam knowledge. So the decline of ijtihad and the rise of taqlid. So this has led to disunity, weak leadership and confusion in identity. So external issues like Islamophobia and negative media have made things worse. So at the root of education have failed to connect knowledge with values. So to move forward, the Muslim world must reform and its educating system to revive critical thinking, strengthen moral values, and develop leaders who are guided by both knowledge and faith. So, wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.